Welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is love loudly. I love that phrase. It was coined by a friend and it just seems so perfect. And in these times of division and separation, we get to affirm and stand for our highest values and intentions, and to be present to loving more loudly. So that's what we get to talk about today, which should be fun. Before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to be here with you this morning. And we're talking about love loudly. In other words, I've been hearing so many people talking about, I'm gonna just fight. In this atmosphere, I'm gonna stand up and fight, fight, fight. And I think we've had enough of fighting. I think that we get to find a better way. And the fighting doesn't change things. It just potentially it changes the victor, but it perpetuates the status quo, so to speak, in that we end up perpetuating the same patterns of separation, the same patterns that are, in my view anyway, kind of destroying the world. This notion of combat and conflict and opposition and domination and control. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. So we're talking about loving loudly, making our voices heard in love rather than in battle. So if we look at our culture, we are so admired in the language and paradigm of warfare and domination and control and separation and opposition and conflict, and this has been the rallying cry for humanity since at least the Bible emerged, right? And way before that, obviously, because the Bible was recounting all kinds of conflicts. But I mean, if we just look at our origin story, it's a story of separation, with Adam and Eve in the garden, and trans the didn't defying the authority, and then being punished by being exiled from paradise with no path to redemption, really. So, that right there was domination and control. Okay. So you don't follow the rules, you get booted out of paradise. And that and also the hierarchy there, is like, here's the controller, and we don't follow the rules, so we get punished. And this is the structure that we have perpetrated and perpetuated throughout our um at least 2000 plus year history, since that story. And so it's interesting because also part of that story is love, right? If we go a little bit further along, there's the story of love. And yet somehow we're trying to hold this notion of love side by side with this notion of separation. And it doesn't really work that way. And I'm saying that through observation and experience. I think we can recognize that well, certainly humans are paradoxical. We can recognize that as well. But what if we can find a way to be in greater alignment around this notion of loving loudly, of standing in love, for love, meaning connection, compassion, cooperation, collaboration, community. And it's not like it's easy, it's simple, but I'm not presuming in any way that it's an easy thing to do, to, in the face of really truly hateful behavior filled with hatred and filled with condescension and violence, for instance. I'm not saying it's easy to stand in a place of love and connection, but it is simple. And I hold the belief that light trumps dark, and that it's so deeply, deeply important for us to be the light and not fall into the spiral of fear and anger and hopelessness and frustration. It's important for us to cultivate connection and to be speaking through love, to perpetrate love, to cultivate love. And what does that look like? What does it look like in these times of what seems like growing division and separation? It looks like putting a human face on one another. It looks like having human to human conversations. It looks like breaking bread together, creating spaces for safe conversation, for true sharing of heart and soul that allows us to connect and breed understanding at a deeper level, to find local support, because it's easy to hate when there's no humanity there, when we are dealing with categories, when we are slapping labels onto groups and people. The foundation, I spent years trying to understand, what is this notion of hate and evil? Like, does evil exist? And if so, what is it and where does it come from? And I'm personally, again, any beliefs that I'm speaking, they're just my ideas. You get to feel into it. I'm not saying I know the truth. I'm just saying what has arisen for me in my inquiries, is that for me, evil doesn't exist as an entity. It doesn't exist as a force in and of itself, but that it is separation itself, which allows us to do evil things, to do horrific things. When we are disconnected, when we are disassociated from ourselves and others, that's where we get the capacity to do what I would call evil. Because we're not connected, because we're not present to the impact of our actions. Just sit with that for a minute. The importance of connection. And when we label others as other, what we're doing is we are creating a separation. And when we have that separation, we are then able to justify all kinds of behavior. I mean, that's what happened in World War II in Germany. It was othering. And when we other anybody, it allows us, we grant ourselves permission to do heinous things, to behave in ways that are completely out of alignment with our consciously or other than consciously held values. Laying blame on others for our fears. The fact is, and I believe it's a fact, I mean, I believe it's a validatable fact, is that we are all deeply interconnected. We breathe the same oxygen. We're breathing the oxygen from the time of the dinosaurs, we're breathing particles from the stars. So we are all connected. And so to be nurturing that connection is our work. To be finding a way to bring into connection those who feel disconnected. It's so much easier to fall into blaming and separation because we've been trained to it. We've been trained to believe things like, if I have more, you have less. If you have more, I have less. We're trained into this notion of scarcity, competition. Our perception of nature, this is really fascinating, actually. Our perception of nature was for a very long time reflective of that notion that it's a dog eat dog world, and it's competition, and our interpretation of survival of the fittest meant a constant battle, again the war metaphors, for domination and control. Whereas now, as we're discovering more and more about nature, we're learning more and more about its interconnectedness between species, between all these different elements in the living world to support a greater system that is interdependent. And when we see that, when we can allow ourselves to see that in nature, maybe we can better discover that in ourselves, that we cannot live in a vacuum. And building walls and constructing laws that perpetuate in the othering is perpetuating a doomed paradigm, is perpetuating a system that guarantees our destruction, just a matter of time. Just the notion of war itself is truly insane, but we're not raised to question it, right? The arms race, the nuclear race, building better weapons, protecting ourselves through violence, perpetuates violence. And so the more loudly we love, the more we can stand in a place of love, the more bridges we can build, the more hope we can create. Like true hope for humanity, true hope for our potential on this planet. If we can breed connection. Rather than this domination and control. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's not. And it challenges me anyway to imagine how to respond to direct violence. I heard a story of a friend saying that their grandson came home from school recounting stories of the boys. It's not even teasing, tormenting the girls with the phrase, your body, our choice. And I don't know yet how to respond to that. I really don't know how to respond to that, other than to say, I don't think so. But responding to that from a place of fear or a place of othering in response, because that is an expression of the ultimate in domination, control, othering, fear, even hatred, separation. I'm inviting input into how do we respond to that? How do we respond to threats of violence in a way that allows our oneness. You know, this is reminding me of a story that a friend told me that was so powerful and transcendent, actually. Um, she found herself in a situation with a man who made it clear that he was going to kill her. And this person somehow mustered a connection to the purity of love such that this other person curled up whimpering in a ball. And to me, I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine a love so powerful that it would disable that kind of hateful violence, that kind of separation. But I think we're called to step into that in our greatest capacity. Good morning, Sue. Welcome. It's so good to have you here with us this morning. How do we practice love that is a light so powerful that there's no room for darkness? I think that's our challenge. I think that's our calling at this time. Because one of the greatest tools of darkness is fear. When there's love, there's no fear. So I know this is new to us, to be called into being light, really, truly being light down to our bones. But I think we can do it. I think we're capable of it. And it means redefining ourselves. It means calling ourselves to a higher standard, to not fall into fear, to not lose ourselves, and instead to connect more deeply to the essence of love that we are. And I think this takes a committed practice. I'm saying this for myself as much as for anybody else, maybe even more so, you know, to find that place within from which that light emerges. Because the more radiant we are, the more we are that light, the less darkness can prevail. Darkness is just the absence of light. So we get to be that light, to radiate that light, to illuminate. And that happens through connection. And I know how challenging that is, especially in the face of hate. It's much easier to hate back. And I don't know. What I do expect, at least for myself, is that I'll have moments when I may be able to do that, to be the light in the face of deep darkness. Hopefully I'll be able to cultivate that ability so that it happens more easily. And I know there are times when I won't be able to fulfill that intention. And so that's okay. We just need to regroup and then bring ourselves forward again to refocus on that intention again and again and again and again, to hold that intention and allow that to guide us and to be our northern star. Thank you, Sue. Sue says good topic. If we want to know what we can do, this is the biggest thing we can do to create connection, to create community, to create more light. Because I do deeply believe that light breeds light. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's a privilege and a deep pleasure to have the opportunity to be sharing in these morning musings on what it is to be human. So until next time, so much love to you.